This is Peter. Today I'm going to go over the GP shift modification on the 2023 CFMOTO 300SS. The 300SS comes with a standard transmission, which is a 1 down and 5 up transmission. With the GP shift modification, we're able to reverse that process and make it 1 up into first gear and then 5 down between gears 2 through 6. You'll notice with the standard transmission that when you push down on the shift lever, it rotates the countershaft counterclockwise, and when you lift up on the shift lever, it rotates the countershaft clockwise. The GP shift modification will reverse this process. We'll start by removing the shift rod assembly by removing the bolt that attaches the shift rod assembly to the shift lever.
It's a bad thing. We can have a great thing. Let the money go directly to the people and let
Next, we'll remove the bolt from the shift rod that connects to the connecting seat that attaches the shift rod to the countershaft. Next, we're going to remove the connector seat by first removing the pinch bolt that sits in the groove on the countershaft.
Instead of wasting your time on the internet or prompting ChatGPT, the audacity when you're doing practical exercises and projects that prepare you for the jobs you want. Promo code MIDAS so they know that I sent you. And Donald Trump says,
In this next step, we're going to begin by undoing the bolt that goes through the main bracket of the rear set and attaches to the frame. By removing this bolt, we have access to the spacer that sits behind the rear set, in between that and the frame. We want to remove that because the GP shift modification will replace that spacer. We're also going to pull the rubber plug out of the frame here. You'll see that opens up into the frame tube. And we're going to add a little bit of dielectric grease to the slider nut that goes into the bolt that will attach the GP shift mod to the frame. This just allows the slider nut there to enter into that space in the frame a little more smoothly, as it is tight with welds. Now with that slider nut attached to the bolt, I'm going to insert it into the frame tube. I'm going to give it a couple of taps with a hammer, just because, as I said, it is quite tight. And then I'm just going to make sure I've got that slider nut in the space where I want it. And then I'm going to back the bolt out of that nut and leave that in place. So the second part of the slider nut will go onto the bolt, but first we'll pass that through the GP shift modification. We'll add that second part of the slider nut, and then we'll thread that bolt into the slider nut that we inserted into the frame tube. Now we'll put the main part of the rear set back into place, and the thick part of the GP shift modification will now sit behind the rear set where we removed that spacer in that previous step. Next, we'll reconnect the connecting seat to the upper shift rod portion of the GP shift modification. We'll reattach the connecting seat onto the countershaft and then replace the pinch bolt through the groove. And we'll just leave everything finger tight for now because we're going to need to make a lot of adjustments after. Next, we're going to attach the lower shift rod to the bottom of the shift lever. A quick test shows that everything looks like it's doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. Now, as we can see, when we step down on the shift lever, it rotates the counter shaft clockwise, going up in gears from 2 to 6. Then when we lift up on the shift lever, the counter shaft will turn counterclockwise, and we will go down in gears 6 down into first. Now there's only one thing left to do.